When I think about my backstory, I struggle sometimes with how much to tell people, and I just want to be very real, very transparent about my life, with the effort or the intent that it will not only tell you about my faith journey, but will help you to develop your faith journey. And I just want to trust God with what I'm about to share with you. It's very personal. Like everybody else, lots of highs, lots of lows in my life, but there were some very specific things that occurred in my life that without those things happening, I don't know that I would be here today doing or wanting to share about faith. And so I think that sometimes it takes devastation and tragedy, not always, but I think sometimes those flaws in our life, God can use those to take you into more of a flawless, fearless journey that He has for you, something that can be used for His kingdom. So I can tell you all the great things, right? I have a JD, a PhD, I was married, 5 kids, big house, great career, husband had a good career. We went on vacations, part of some really elite and affluent women's organizations, sorority, all kinds of things were going wonderful, very wonderful in my life. I had been a track star in high school. I had been in pageants. I had gone to college on a scholarship, came from a 2-parent home. My dad's an associate pastor. Lots of great things happened in my life. But there were some specific things too that occurred along the way that probably allowed me to cover some of the things, the more hurtful things. So some of those more hurtful things in childhood were I was molested by a cousin, someone I trusted, and as a small child, and that kind of made me, as a child, not always feel on the inside what I projected on the outside. On the outside, I was pretty, I was doing things, but on the inside, I never quite felt accepted. And then I could say the next thing that happened that was memorable. You have lots of memories. I don't want to say it's the only memorable thing, but the next thing I think kind of led me to where I am is my parents got divorced. One day, my brother and I were having a good time with my parents, and the next minute they were divorced. And there was no real explanation. But by the grace of God, my parents got remarried. They have a wonderful marriage. They have a thriving ministry. They're doing great in life. But that hurt me as a child. It taught me that sometimes love is not enough, that things fail, and that you can be abandoned. And so fast forward, as I'm living this, what I will call my Cosby Show book cover life. I think from the outside, many of us grew up watching Cosby Show, and they had 5 kids, they had great careers and all this wonderful stuff. Well, I had that. And at least on the outside, it looked that way. But everything was perfect until it wasn't. And I can distinctly remember when things started to completely unravel. I think that all marriages have ups and downs. Everybody goes through things, but June 2nd of 2014 was quite different. I had returned to work after taking FMLA. I needed to take some time to get myself together. I was experiencing some anxiety, some depression from a hostile work environment, and just life was building up. And when I returned to work, I thought it would just be a regular day. And that regular day turned into being something that it really was not. It turned into being a day where I was ridiculed. I was accused of things that I had not done. And at the end of the day, I was wrongfully terminated. This was devastating to say the least. I had built an almost 20-year career in higher education. I had a stellar career behind me. I was a vice president at a university. I thought I was doing all the right things, talking to the right people, networking with the right people. I had started my PhD, and all of a sudden I had nothing. And so that kind of catapulted this next year in ways that just seemed to spiral out of control. I lost a job. My husband and I, who were already having some marital problems, started having even more marital problems. You know how it is when you're struggling with money, everything else just starts to turn badly. We lost our home. Our car was repossessed. I, got behind on all kinds of bills, got all kinds of notices in the mail, all those calls you don't want to get from creditors. My kids were in private school, so I had to borrow money from family and friends to try to cover that. I had to go talk to the school and try to figure out, how to get that paid for. We had 5 kids, and they were teenagers and middle school and elementary age kids. My husband was acting funny, at least towards me it felt like. He wasn't really loving on me, he wasn't talking to me as much. His frequent word was that I was frustrating. That kind of took me into being more and more anxious and depressed. I started taking anxiety meds. I started seeing a therapist. I didn't know what to do. Not only was I terminated, I couldn't get another job. I was applying and nobody was hearing what I had to say. And the more I told my then husband about it, the more frustrated he got, the more distant he got, the more he got busy and wasn't around or there for me emotionally, physically, mentally. And I started having those women's intuition, if you will. You start to feel like there's something definitely going on with your husband. He's pulling away. Is there another woman? What's going on? And the more I investigated, they always say, when you go looking for trouble, you'll find trouble. I was not prepared for the trouble I was to find. We had some struggles with infidelity in our marriage in the past. But what I found was so devastating. It wasn't just a one-night stand or some random woman. It was a 7-year affair. I found the receipts. I found the pictures, the text messages, the hotel stays, the bills at the hotel. He had the nerve to have his name and her name on the hotel manifest, on the bill. I found the flower receipts and the gift receipts. I found it all. And I shared that with him on a particular night. And he told me in no uncertain terms that I was crazy, that what I was looking at was not real. It could be Photoshop. It could be something I made up, as if what I was looking at was not real. And so he denied it. Although the evidence was there, I wanted so desperately to believe it, to believe that what I was looking at was not true, which further put me into more depression and more anxiety and more medication and more therapy. Until it was almost as if I was paralyzed in my bed. I spent more time in my bed than I did with my children. I had previously been, the team mom for their sports. I had been secretary of the school board. I had been, parent volunteer at all their school bake sales and field trips. I was a very involved mother, even with a career. And I was not acting like myself. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get out of bed. I was just dark. I didn't want to do anything. And it was almost a year later This was now, I remember the day. It was May 5th of 2015. I came home late after traveling. My day job had ended at Chicago State University, but when I was wrongfully terminated. But I still was a commissioner in DC, which meant I had a part-time job. And so I had come back from one of those trips. My husband at the time and I had been talking about getting a lawyer, filing a lawsuit for the wrongful termination. We had been talking to our lawyers, getting prepared to fight this. It wasn't okay that I had been wrongfully terminated. It was not okay that they could just ruin my career for something I didn't do. And it was affecting my ability to get another job. So we had hired a lawyer, they were working and getting all that together, but those legal bills were mounting. And so I had come home on May 5th from traveling as a commissioner, and my husband at the time told me he wanted a divorce, that he had had enough with me. He had had a divorce. He wanted a divorce. And I was surprised, but somewhere in my spirit, I was not, at least at that moment, really upset by it, because he had been acting like he didn't want to be my husband for this whole year. He wasn't supportive, wasn't, at least in my opinion, embracing me in all of this agony I was feeling from being terminated. And so I had started, reaching out to another man. I had started going on dates with him. I figured if my husband was gonna have an affair and deny everything, then I was gonna have one too. And we know what that does. You dig a ditch for yourself and you end up digging a ditch for two people. You both fall in there. And so, but I had done that. And so when he approached me with this, I want a divorce, I was like, good riddance, fine. I don't need you. I have, been seeing this other guy for 2 or 3 months, and I'm just going to develop something with him. And so June 2nd of 2015 is when he moved out. But he didn't move out like anyone else I had known's husband to move out. He moved out in grand form. We had gone to dinner. I wanted to talk to him about best ways to move through this thing called divorce. Part of me still wanted him to want me and not want a divorce. I was like, give me a hint. If you don't want to be divorced, I don't want to be divorced. But he wasn't saying that. He did want to be divorced. And I kept saying, it's because of this other woman, it's because of this, because of that. And he just wasn't making any moves about it. But when we started talking about the money, how we were going to divide our assets, he got really agitated when I talked about his business. He had his own business and he didn't want me to have any of that money. And the more we talked about it, the angrier he got, until we were in this whirlwind of an argument in a public restaurant. And then he said those things that a mother never wants to hear. I declare war on you. I will never give you a penny. I'll make sure you're financially ruined. I'll take your kids from you and you'll never see them again. Now, my kids were teenagers and young adults and elementary age kids, but that was still a real threat to me, because this was not the first time he had said that. He had been saying that through our marriage for 20 years. I was married for 20 years. And he had said those things before. And so I panicked, I jumped up, I told him to come get out. And so we know what those other words are. I'm a Christian, so I can't say all those words, but I gave it to him. And I left, I stormed home. He came home not alone. He came home with a police escort, 2 police cars. The police came to the door. I'm there with the kids. All hell broke loose. I didn't say a word because I didn't want to get arrested. But apparently he had told the police that I was threatening him. I was going to do some harm to him. Now I'm 5'3.5" tall and about 125 pounds. He is about 6 feet tall and about 220 pounds. So I don't know what I could have said in a restaurant that would make him feel so threatened to call the police. But that's what he did. And that's how my kids found out that their parents were getting a divorce. So when he left that way, I felt like that was the second of two big strikes in my life. The first big strike was that wrongful termination. The second big strike was my husband leaving in such a traumatic fashion. And shortly thereafter, though, in October of 2015, after filing the civil lawsuit and things had been going on for a year and a half, I thought we were moving towards settlement. I just really wanted my job back. And I thought we were moving towards that. My lawyers told me that I was indicted, criminally indicted on 17 counts of misconduct. 17 counts for something I never did. And under no uncertain terms was it not clear to me, to my lawyers, to quite a few others, that because of my civil lawsuit was all in newspapers. Because of my civil lawsuit, that this was retaliation for being a whistleblower. And so the criminal charges were surely to quiet down the civil suit. I spent about a day and a half in the bed on clonazepam, Xanax, Zoloft, you name it. I did not want to be here anymore. I wasn't going to commit suicide, but I was more than willing for God to take me away. I just could not be here anymore. I was no good to my children. I had no job. I had to move in with my parents. I had to sell everything. I had no money. I had mounting legal bills. Divorce going on where I'm being accused of being a bad mother. I got the criminal indictment to deal with, and I still got this civil lawsuit to do. And oh, by the way, here comes the IRS, and they're now doing an audit. It was more than I could ever take. And just when I thought I couldn't take any more, I then went to the doctor. I hadn't been feeling well. I hadn't been feeling well at all. But I thought the swelling, the headaches, the flu-like symptoms were just me, not feeling well. And then they told me, they diagnosed me with lupus. And that was very, very hard for me to take. How could God do this? How could He allow everything to be taken away? All of it. My hair started falling out. And women, our hair is our crowning glory. My hair started falling out. You got to see the pictures. I'm going to show you all the pictures. The hair falling out. My teeth started falling out. I had to get 2-3 root canals, a tooth extracted. I started gaining tons of weight. Everything was falling apart. I got in my prayer closet. I had just saw the movie War Room. Thank you, Priscilla Shire. Thank you, Priscilla Shire. War Room. That movie gave me some new strategies. I got in my closet. I started writing words of affirmation, started writing scriptures that I could stand on, I could believe in. I started reaching out to people at church. I started spending my day. I have anything else to do, my whole day in church, my whole night in church, going to Bible studies, going to prayer groups, going to anything and everything that was at a church. I started doing yoga, started meditating on my word, started reading my Bible, started sharing my faith with my family and friends, started telling my kids how we had to just put our faith in the Lord. That's all we have at the end of the day is our faith. I started eating right. I started researching how to, grow your hair back, how to lose weight the healthy way, how to use your faith for health. how to use your faith to cure lupus, how to use your faith to get a job, how to use your faith to just build up my self-esteem. And it started working. It was 2017 that I went back to finish my PhD in the midst of all this. And God said, just give him a little bit of faith, just a little bit. If you step out on it and take an action, he'll take you the rest of the way. Well, I graduated with that PhD in 2018 because of that faith. I ate right, exercised, and lost that weight I needed to lose to get that lupus under control. That happened by faith. I started researching and putting body products together that were natural on my hair and in my body, and that started to grow my hair back by faith. I developed a better relationship with my children. I spent more time with them than ever. I started praying with them, showing them scripture, attending all their activities. Those relationships built by faith. My sons were graduating from college. One graduated from Howard during this time. One graduated from the University of Illinois during this time. Just everything started lining up. They didn't miss a beat. My daughter was excelling in school. The other two boys were excelling in their sports. Just everything was going well. Still took forever to get a job though. But in April of 2019, April 15th of 2019, that criminal case finally came to an end. 3.5 years on trial. Every month of going to 26 in California to check in, not having the freedom to be able to even go get gas in Indiana. I couldn't go visit my kids at college without getting permission from court. I was out on bond, but I was not free. But my lawyers worked so tirelessly. And on April 15th of 2019, I was exonerated on all charges, all 17, not guilty. And it only took the judge 5 minutes. 3.5 years of trial. He never left the bench. It took him 5 minutes to come back on every count, not guilty. It was a great day, a glorious day for God. I wanted to shout, scream, do all those things, but it wasn't appropriate in public. But when I got in my car, all I could do was praise and thank God for what he had done. He had showed up and showed out because of my faith. But I'm so ever thankful that today I work full time, I take care of my family, and I'm even dating. So everything fell apart, but it's because of my faith, because I trusted God in the midst of a tsunami. I trusted him that if I just had a little bit of faith and I just got up out of that bed and I got up off my face and I just took one step, that he would take me to the next step and to the next step and to the next step and to the next step. And this ministry is just expanding. It's moving, all based on trusting God and having faith, and having that faith push you into action. So I hope that you will join us. I hope that you will join me on this journey. It's a faith journey. It's not over. And as I move forward with my faith, I want to help and encourage and teach you how to move forward with your faith as well. So just join me for just 5 minutes of faith every day.